Now in this video, I'm going to show you how your top of the backswing position has a massive influence on what path you're going to produce in a downswing. So whether you struggle with a slice, or maybe even an overdraw, or maybe you just want a consistent shot shape, slight draw, slight fade, this is the video for you because you need to have the top of the backswing in the correct spot for your shot shape. Now I'm Jonathan Chown with JChownGolf. Let's dive right into it. So exactly what this is called your depth of your hand at the top of the backswing, or your lead arm depth at the top of the backswing here, because this will have the biggest role in what your club path is going to do in the downswing. So what is it? So your depth of your hands or your left arm at the top of the backswing, all that means is, let's say you got a deeper, so more depth of your hands at the top of the backswing, the more behind you they are, the lower your left arm is. And let's say you don't have too much depth of your hands, they're more on top of your body, your left arm is more over your shoulder line here. So left arm being low, hands being behind you, more depth, left arm being high, hands being on top of you, less depth there. So how this influences your club path there. So let's say I've got a lack of hand depth to the top of the backswing. So my hands are very vertically high there. My left arm is very much over and on top of my shoulders here. So you can see all my right shoulder. Now, if I move down the downswing, what's going to happen here? The club is going to move on the outside. My swing is going to naturally get out to win. Now, why that is because when we rotate and we move in a downswing, our hands will follow our rotation. That's natural in the golf swing. Wherever you rotate, the hands will follow if you let the hands do it. So you can see if I haven't got too much depth, I rotate, hands are going to go out in front of me. Now, if I have more depth here, so let's say where my left arm is very much underneath my shoulder plane here and my hands are quite far behind my body. Now I do that exact same move, rotate in the downswing, turn. You can see now the hands and the club are dropping way more onto the inside. So you can see that's going to create a path that's going to be very in to out. So as we could see there, depending on your depth, the levels of your depth at the top of the backswing is what's going to be produced in your path there. So let's have a look at and see what creates both of these depths. How do you get really deep and how do you not get so deep at the top of the backswing? So if we talk about how you don't get quite as deep at the top of the backswing, so we'll say almost like the fault area. So we see a golfer who has very high hands and a very high left arm at the top of the swing, we will see them be very much so just trying to complete their backswing by purely raising and lifting up their hands. Not much turn of the body, they're just doing their backswing by purely just taking their hands and physically lifting them up to the top of the backswing. We could also see this with golfers who don't try to rotate their lower body too much or try to quiet their rotation in general. And if we don't rotate in the backswing, those hands are going to vertically lift up there. So that's how, as a fault, that can be created. Because like we said in the downswing, why we care about our depth is because when we rotate, the hands go out in front of us. Now that's because the hands always follow your rotation, where you're rotating. Same thing with the backswing. If we rotate more, the hands are going to go more behind us. So like we said, golfers quite commonly who are trying to not rotate all that much in the backswing and just trying to lift their hands up, they will get a lack of depth. So what's the opposite? If let's say a golfer over rotates, where are they going to get? They're going to get to a very, I'm really over exaggerating it here of course, but they're going to get to a place where they've got far too much depth. The only thing they can do there is either manipulate their tilt to be able to get the path back to neutral, or they're just going to hit a massive kind of big hook shot or push shot out there. But we also see golfers who are just trying to, again, govern their swing by their hands, but instead of going up with their arms, they're going around their body here. Now let's talk about someone who wants to hit a natural fade shot. So just a tight little fade down there, nice and controllable. We know that we need less depth at the top to be able to do that, but we don't want to do it by quieting down the lower body, which is the fault, and quieting down the body's rotation and just lifting those hands and arms up, because for sure it's going to get you fading it, but it'll be far too much. Your path will be too out to win. So what we want to do, we want to be able to still get a nice, full, complete turn, regardless of our shot shape. We want that nice full turn. But we know if we just purely get a big full turn and we try to make the hands and arms quite passive, you're going to get too much depth, so you're going to hit a draw instead of a fade. So what we want to do here, we want to then change what we're doing with our hands and arms. Let's make our arms go up and feel like they're going up a little bit more vertical whilst we're getting that full turn there. And you're going to see if I'm trying to feel like my hands and arms are going a little bit more up, so if I say a percentage wise, I'm trying 50% of my effort with my hands and arms are trying to go up. The rest is just me turning my body you're going to see how I'm going to get into a slightly higher position with my left arm and my hands here. Now it's going to create a path which is on the outside, but not too extreme. So still a full turn, but I'm trying to get those hands going up a little bit more vertical in the backswing to control my depth. And let's look at the result we're going to have here. So you could see from my pathwise, because obviously you can't see the shape of the shot from the net, you're going to see I travelled a little bit more on the outside there. I just tried to feel like full turn, but getting a little bit more lift with those hands and arms. That will then cause me, because we know as we rotate in the backswing, hands are going to be following our rotation. So then if we feel the lift up with our hands aren't going to get too high. They're going to get at a nice place for just that slight lack of depth for a nice little fade there. So to hit the natural draw up there, which I know a lot of you golfers are wanting to do, what we got to do here, again, full turn, that's a given. We want that regardless of whether we're hitting a fade or a draw. But we know if we just full turn whilst feeling pretty much nothing with the hands and arms are going to be too passive and they're going to go far too much around our body. So we'd have far too much depth. We'd need to remove some depth from there. So what we need to do from here, we still need the hands and arms to feel like they're doing a little bit. Still need to feel like they're doing a little bit of vertical lift up there, but not to the same extent as the fade. Just different amounts of how much you're feeling your hands and arms are going up, because we want the turn to be the same. That's how we can control the variables there. All we need to control is what we're doing with our hands and arms up there. So I'm going to feel less upward move with the hands and arms, but I'm still trying to feel a little bit. Still that nice good full turn. There we go. So I'm getting those hands into a nice position here. I'm not trying to feel as much of a vertical move like I would do with that fade shot, with that full turn. Still the full turn, just dialing it down a little bit with that lift of the hands there. Going to see now I'm going to be in a much better position with my depth slightly behind our body there. So let's see one here. I'm going to do that exact same thing. You're going to see on the path, look what's going to happen. So you can see there, definitely a little bit more drawy of a path. I stayed underneath that path line for a little bit longer there here, guys. Now there's one vital thing that I recommend every golfer to do regardless of what they're practicing, but it's really important for depth as well if you want to measure it and want to see how much depth you're getting, and that is filming your golf swing. You have to film your golf swing to properly gauge this. So having a little kind of filming software, a little app on your phone, I use Huddle Technique is what I use for doing this. And what you want to do when you're looking at your depth, you get up to the top of your backswing, you draw a line straight down, like we have a few times in this video, straight down from the butt end of the club, down towards the ground there. Now, what you want to do there, if you see that butt end of the club and that line drawn down, if it's going over the ankles, that's pretty much dead on standard. So that will create, if everything's good in your downswing, a very neutral path that would hit a very kind of straight ball flight. Now, if that line gets more behind your ankles, so your hands drawing down that line from your hands or button the club to the ground, that's anywhere behind your ankles, that's going to create more of a draw bias shape. And if it's in front of your ankles, that's going to create a more fade bias shape. So you've always got to see, which I always look at when I'm doing my lessons, is where is that line in relationship to your ankles when you're drawing it down for the butt end of the club. More behind it is more draw, more in front of it is more fade there. That's how you can gauge it when you're looking at your golf swing. So guys, as you can see, no real drills to do from this video, because this video is more just about the general knowledge of what this does to the top of your backswing and how it really creates the shape in there. So like I could say, it's a very flexible type of thing, because not everyone needs to hit one ball fly or the other. That's why there's not a drill to get you in an exact position, because it's different depending on what your intention is, whether you want to fade the ball or whether you want to draw the ball there. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you've learned something about this. Hopefully it's an area that a lot of you have learned maybe for the first time there about this, because there's not very many videos out on YouTube anyway about depth. Instagram's another story. It's saturated with depth stuff, but for some reason YouTube, not so much. So if you found this video helpful, again, click that like button. If you want more golf instruction just like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button too to be notified every time I put out a video. So manage your depth and you'll be able to manage your shot shape.